People think we're like the most stuck up, rich, snobby, whatever out there, which is, you know, maybe true for some people. I mean, it's definitely true for some people.
If you look at like stupid websites that say like, that describe Harvard-Westlake, they'll say like celebrities' kids, CEOs' kids, like smart kids. Sometimes they say, sure, like there are all of those types of people here, so sure, those people might be right.
At high school, there is the doers and the do-nots. So like Harvard-Westlake, there aren't very many do-nots. There's like pretty much, I would say 97% of people here are like trying their best and doing their best and achieving and have something going for them. And I think that changes the dynamic of the environment.
Basically, if you were to change anything about Harvard-Westlake, it wouldn't be Harvard-Westlake, and it would not be desirable for parents, because parents want this atmosphere that is competitive, that is hardworking, that is, everyone is smart around you. So you need to be like even smarter. So if you were to change this environment into nurturing, it would not be Harvard-Westlake, and it probably wouldn't even be the best school west of the Mississippi.
High school has been, it's been different. It's been very different. I can't stress how different it is from what it could have been.
There's some things like, you know, I wish I could take this course, but my schedule's not free. Like they offer so many interesting electives and I only have room for 2, which is disappointing because there are more courses I'd like to take.
Like you have connections halfway across the world that you know are safe and secure, and like they're gonna take care of you because like you're a Harvard-Westlake student and for no other reason.
In good ways and bad, you're kind of just like pressured to find your thing. So if you don't really have anything that you're too passionate about, it's kind of like, what are you doing here? Like you're like wasting space.
Competition is tough.
You kind of just like have to like work as just hard as possible. I mean, like sometimes it kind of feels like your best isn't even good enough because you like they're always demanding like so much from you, and like very little do you get like a break.
I think since 7th grade we've been ingrained to be competitive, and I think we're all inherently competitive, and when we've had that much practice with being competitive, they can't stop the monster from coming out when it does.
It's not for everyone, but if you like the feeling of competition, and if you like I guess being around people who are really, really driven and really, really into what they do, then it's a really great place to be.
Honestly, I don't know that the school should be made less competitive. I think that's part of what makes it great. It's just sad that a lot of people can't find a good fit here.
I'd say the majority of Harvard-Westlake students, not all of them, but a lot of them are too entitled.
People do things like, you know, like not take seriously when there's a black speaker. Not because they think that what he's saying isn't important, they just don't think it's relevant.
It's hard because you always wonder whether or not a speaker, no matter if they're great or poor, it will actually affect any change.
A lot of the amazing speakers we have are like entire school assemblies, and like it's just hard to keep your focus during those assemblies because you have so many people around you. No one's like keeping an eye out on you. So if you have a test and you're thinking about your test, like I know I'm guilty of that, going into those assemblies with my book and like not like focusing on the assembly as much as I should have, and that's why class meetings to me are like seem more personal, and like I don't know, that's why I just like learn more from class meetings usually. So if speakers are brought into class meetings as much as possible, I think that could be more effective.
I've written some things in the Chronicle about it to kind of get people to understand. I think the best thing to do would be to have a way to let the students kind of voice this stuff.
Public school, they have homeroom there, and you would have the same homeroom for 4 years, same teacher. So eventually you form a bond with the teachers, with all the students. You guys are like family, one big family, because it's not like you just had class for 1 year, move on to the next, right? You've had them all 4 years. So I think once they develop that mentality where like we're all family, that's when they begin to share their stories to each other. Then eventually they bond and become even more of a family, right? And if students just have that mentality to listen during homeroom, then I guarantee you, if I would have been in a homeroom, I would have told people my story.
One moment where the competitions seemed like really like bad was when we had a class meeting earlier this year where the deans showed us like grade distributions for like Ivy League schools, and they showed like these charts where it said like, okay, these are the GPAs and test scores that were accepted, and then these are the ones that were sometimes accepted, sometimes denied, etc. And kids were like, they left the meeting like not crying but close, and they were like, I'm never gonna get in anywhere, oh my god, my life is over because I'm not going to Harvard. And it's like, first of all, there are other schools. Second of all, you might still get in there. Like, this was just to show you like pure numbers what happens, because you need to know these things.
Colleges don't take every smart kid from Harvard-Westlake.
Every man for themselves, to be honest. Like, your friend may be your friend, but they're trying to get the same things as you sometimes. So, but at the same time, I think you also learn how to have a camaraderie while also competing against them. I know in track, me and most of the girls are like the bestest of friends, and we can talk about whatever, and we hang out even out of school and everything. Yet at the same time, we're competing against each other sometimes, and we're all competing for a scholarship somewhere, or we're all like trying to figure out the next move. But at the same time, they are your friends. So I think it's healthy competition.
I guess Harvard-Westlake is different from other high schools, like, well, in the college respect, that it definitely is a given, and people here are just like super just like nerve-wracked and like stressed about the whole process, because for them it's just like, how do I get like my list of like the 20 most prestigious schools like narrowed down, like, oh my gosh, my life is terrible. But at the same time, like, that's the bubble that we're in, and that's all we've really been taught.
If I had to explain Harvard-Westlake to someone who had never heard of it before, I guess it would depend on if I was trying to like portray Harvard-Westlake in a positive light. But if I were being really honest with them, I'd probably tell them that it was a place that valued like doing great things more than being a great person. And that's like my main kind of problem with Harvard-Westlake, that it is about tangible success and not about personal growth. I mean, obviously it's a great academic school, so no one can really take that away from us, but that's what I'd say.
I don't think there's really that much of a sense of community, and I don't think that's really a negative per se. Like, I'm not really the kind of person who's into school spirit or, you know, that sort of thing. I feel like that is kind of a superficial level of community.
There's definitely like a social hierarchy. I wouldn't say that like what you see in the movies is entirely accurate for Harvard-Westlake.
We don't have like problems like gangs. We have like bullying online sometimes maybe, but like no one's like getting into fights at the lockers like in the movies or whatever.
It's not like a horrible place. It's not Russia, but
sometimes in our Facebook pages, in like the class Facebook pages, say things that they think are harmless, like, oh, that's so gay, or other things that I don't feel comfortable repeating. But I think there's a certain ambivalence with which those things are kind of thrown out.
I do think we should begin to make progress towards making sure that certain students don't make comments, ignorant comments, but it's something that they are just unaware of. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because I believe that they didn't have the same experiences that I had.
The active bullying that you might see at other places, maybe like in the Midwest, is that like with these like small casual comments, they can come from like your friends, like where you don't expect them to come from.
I think it does manifest in different ways, and certainly because we are more educated here about, you know, what might get you in trouble, I think that people are a little smarter about the ways in which they go about it, and it's still a problem, but it seems to lay lower under the surface than it does at other schools.
I went to another private school in Wisconsin up till 8th grade, which was pretty conservative, and I think there's a pretty significant and noticeable contrast between the general attitude towards sexuality, race, and gender between that school and this school. I don't think either are perfect, but I feel like this school is more progressive, I want to say.
I personally am a white guy, so a white male, so I haven't experienced bullying or anything, but I know in the real world my Jewish background is sometimes hated upon.
Like, obviously there are some people that say like no homo and faggot a lot, and you try to like teach them or like tell them not to use it, but like other than that there's no like real bullying.
One thing I noticed, I was at a kind of like a kickback type thing, and drunk white people, like straight boys, they adore the N-word. I was horrified. I was like, did he just say that? I know he's drunk, but wow. Like and I think that just goes to show like the alcohol took away kind of the social barriers, and that's, I guess, what's inside their mind. Like, I was just kind of stunned that they had the nerve to do that.
If you don't get it outside of class, you're not going to get it. And so we can either, ramp up those measures, or, talk to people and make them understand that, or talk to parents, I guess, and make them understand that it's important that they kind of talk to their kids about it on their own.
Yeah, the you can do it all mentality is definitely something that's like good in theory, but just so unachievable in like reality.
There are times when I didn't want to audition for certain things because I knew I wasn't gonna get it, because even though maybe I had the talent for it, I don't have the skin color for it, which sucks because I can't help that.
The issue of racism here was, it's funny, I became aware of it before I even got here.
The only teachers that I've had who were not white were my Spanish teachers who were from like Central and South America, and that's not really the kind of diversity that I'm talking about. I really mean more like having a Black history teacher or like Latina English teacher, or just, having those kinds of teachers for foreign language is great, but we really need to have the diversity across the board. So I think that's a big issue.
Hiring Black teachers, I just think that the teachers just still have to be qualified. But of course, if they're, I think that would be great. I think that people should see. I haven't experienced the same thing, but I could imagine there might be a problem similar to how we treat female teachers here, to how we treat any potential Black teachers here. I think that students might have issues respecting the person. And I think that we just have to make sure that person is an amazing teacher, so that they can command respect and show kids that, hey, these really are peers. I mean, for students, they're superiors because they're the teachers, but for the teachers, they're their peers, and these are people that we should be respecting and looking up to. And there are a lot of teachers here where I've thought about, that's the kind of person I want to be when I grow up.
I don't think they give too much work, but I think people should be more informed on what their goals are. Like, not everyone has to go to an Ivy League school. Not everyone has to do even go to a four-year university. I think sometimes people get caught up in like a rat race where it's just like that's not the right path for them, and they take too many classes and they get stressed out, and it's not worth the stress.
You definitely see microaggressions, and the problem is that like often people think that like these small or casual comments don't matter because they're small casual comments.
I have noticed a few unsightly comments or jokes, regarding rape, race, those types of subjects. I think this has more to do with the individual student population than what the school can actually enforce, short of, issuing suspensions or detentions.
So I think that racism is an issue here, but it's so hidden under ignorance that people don't even think it's an issue, or they don't realize that it's an issue. I don't know, I just know the amount of times that I've been called an Oreo or been told that I'm not actually Black because I dress nice and because I have grammar. That pisses me off so much.
For those that don't have the ability to let go of the issues, or for those that are affected way more than I am, obviously, then I definitely do think something should be done.
You have outlets to speak and to express yourself and to talk with people.
I wanted to write an article towards the end of the year, like a column about the concept of racism and answering the question, do we live in a post-racial society? We don't. But then all of my friends sort of discouraged me from writing it because they said, no, like all of these events that you're talking about that you say are racist, like they're not malicious, so it's not a big deal. And I ended up just getting really discouraged from writing the article, so I didn't do it.
The fact that everyone is so privileged and we have so many options and we are a spoiled group of kids. I think that we become kind of desensitized almost to what it means to struggle.
A lot of people don't get it at an early stage, an appreciation for other people, and I think that Harvard-Westlake doesn't do much to encourage that.
There is a community, but it's not really as strong as other schools maybe.
There is definitely a sense of community in that everyone really feels like, at least I feel, that I belong here and that a lot of people don't feel like an outsider. They really feel included in the school.
I think people do and don't appreciate it for whatever it is.
The best thing about Harvard-Westlake, I think, is just like the connections that we have, and I think in that way there is a Harvard-Westlake community that's like very prevalent.
Harvard-Westlake does prepare you for some aspects of the real world. Like you're prepared to work hard and you're prepared for failure, but it doesn't really prepare kids for what it's like to live outside this very wealthy bubble. And I think that's another thing that we could potentially work on.
I personally wanted to go to a good university, and after I'll probably network with people I know from the school and get a job with maybe many people's parents here, but I don't think that's the right path for everybody. Some people want to go travel the world right after school. Some people want to go and just explore like cross country and go to a community college for a little while or to be a part-time student.
I can't like predict the future, and I don't know how the future is gonna be, so I don't know if high school is ever gonna end. And in some way I don't want it to, just because I like where I'm at right now, and I clearly have a lot of growing up to do, but like I have loved the people here, and like I've had amazing teachers and I have learned a lot. So I mean, I think I'm gonna definitely come back and try to stay in contact with a lot of these people.
There's a whole bunch of different real worlds, depending on what you're doing. I think that the real world that all of us are gonna go into, Harvard-Westlake is preparing us for very well. If our real world is Skid Row, we're gonna have a hard time going to Skid Row from Harvard-Westlake, because this is not preparing for that at all. But our real world is gonna be, most likely for most of us, in conference rooms like this. You know, having meetings and making money, and I don't know.
All I have to say is high school better end. Lord have mercy. June 6th, it is ending. For me and my friends, we are out of high school. We will be moving on to the next level. I know for myself, when I rock across that stage, it will be over.
One thing I do wish is I wish others had the same experience, not just from this school, but from other schools too.
The real world, in my eyes, is hard and full of different people, which is Harvard-Westlake.